On today's episode of the show, we're identifying the three most pivotal basketball recruits that the Louisville Cardinals should be prioritizing the most in the 2025 class. With that being said, let's get right on into the show.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what is going on, everyone? Welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked On the Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. I want to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As I mentioned, we are identifying the three most pivotal basketball recruits in the 2025 class that Pat Kelsey and the Louisville Cardinals should be prioritizing. All three of these players are ones that not only fit into Pat Kelsey's system, but they are amongst some of the best in the country as a whole. And commitments from any of these three would definitely set the tone for Kelsey's team or Kelsey's program as it relates to recruiting. So Louisville is still recruiting a plethora of guys. Multiple guys have made their official visits to the program. They've included Louisville in their list cuts. They've taken Louisville off of their list cuts. There's a lot of moving parts, but we're at that point in the fall to where recruiting is starting to heat up. And I've been saying that, right? That's been almost like a common mantra that I've been repeating is recruiting starting to heat up. Well, now heading into the fall is when guys start to really, focus in on their recruitment, narrowing their list down to the most serious group and making their final visits and making their decisions as we head into winter and even early part of the next calendar year. But three players that this is my personal rankings here. It's not really ranking. It's just a top three players that Louisville should prioritize. And they are doing so. Let me go ahead and get that out there as they are prioritizing these players. But these three recruits are the ones that I want Louisville to get the most. We start out with perhaps my favorite prospect in the class. That is Mikel Brown Jr. The 6'3" point guard is ranked as a top 10 recruit in the country, number 7 on 24/7 Sports, number 12 in the composite. Arguably the best point guard in the country. Spent some time with Overtime Elite in Atlanta and has since made his way back to closer to his hometown. He will be playing at DME Academy in Daytona Beach, Florida for his senior season. Now, this is not the type of recruit that Louisville really has had a great track record of getting, right? Like the top 10 prospect. Louisville's not really been involved with those type of prospects in the past 20 years for the most part. But with NIL and how it has changed the landscape, they've been getting more and more involved. And it's pretty clear that Pat Kelsey is looking to make a splash or 2 or 3 or 4 in this 2025 class. And I believe it all starts with Mikel Brown Jr. He is the type of player that can absolutely raise not only your ceiling, but the floor of your team because he is arguably, I say arguably because it's all opinionated. In my opinion, he is the best floor general in the class. You watch him play, and the skill set is just so smooth. Great ball handler, great passer. Doesn't really have a weak hand. Like his right hand is his dominant hand, but he has a really good left hand as well. Solid passer, really crafty with the ball in his hands. Doesn't get sped up nor slowed down. Overall, just fantastic player that you see one of the reasons why teams win national championships. Most of the time, it's because of really good guard play. And I could see Mikel Brown Jr. being able to come onto the scene year one and be an absolute immediate impact player. On the Adidas 3 SSB circuit, his shooting splits were incredible. 45, 40, 91. So 45% from the field, 40% from three-point land, and 91% from the free throw line. Two things that I want to see from Mikel going into college. Number one, just adding some more muscle. Right now, 6'3", 165 pounds he's listed at. Had a little bit of a growth spurt over the past couple of years. It's all just a matter of filling out the frame. I think that the three-point shooting is there. It's just a matter of being more consistent and not streaky. And I have no concerns that he will be a good three-point shooter because the mechanics look good. He does a good job of creating separation on the jump shot. And his ability to get to the rim is going to open up all kinds of opportunity for creating his own shot from the perimeter. So the main thing here, the obvious question is, how good of a chance does Louisville have? And I have been told by a couple people that don't think that Louisville is out of this recruitment. Like, this is a recruitment that Louisville is right in the mix for. It's not going to be easy to win, but they are right there. So who are they going up against? Well, unfortunately, Mark Pope and the Kentucky Wildcats are seemingly putting a full court press on Brown. He will be making an official visit to Lexington at the end of September. He has a couple more visits for Maryland and Arizona scheduled for October and November, respectively. I think he's visiting Indiana this week, if I'm not mistaken. And also Mark Pope was, I think it was an in-home visit on September 5th. But Louisville has been in contact with Brown. Pat Kelsey and company have been all throughout the Midwest, all throughout the Southeast recruiting. They've been in home with Mikel Brown. The main thing here for the Cardinals is you have to get that official visit scheduled. I know that the vibe, or what people thought, is that Louisville was going to schedule a visit for Mikel sort of at the end of the high school season, closer to the spring. I'm not sure what the timeline for his commitment looks like. I would rather him make an earlier official visit because, I mean, here you have to look at this two ways. Like, there's pros and cons. Like, the pro would be that you would probably get the last crack at this recruitment, because if your official visit was basically for the end of the high school season, early 2025, I mean, chances are you're the last official visit. But you also have to play sort of the wait and see game, right? Like, let's say that you schedule it for February or March or April, probably not April, and probably be January or February more than likely. If you schedule it for that time, you risk a player committing earlier. It's a give and take that it's really risky. And me personally, I would rather Louisville just go ahead and get the official visit scheduled. Personally, the best thing that Louisville could do in this situation is get him on campus for Louisville Live like they are doing with Tyron Stokes. That would be the top priority for me. Granted, I'm saying this from the outside looking in. This is not, reflective of how the staff feels or anything like that. But from a bystander's point of view, a recruiting event where there's going to be a lot of juice in the KFC Yum Center that weekend, it is going to be a huge focus. There's going to be a great turnout. It's the first time that they've done it at the basketball arena. And Louisville Live is a hit, right? So having Tyron Stokes there, having some other recruits there, I think would be huge. And you sort of get a little bit of a taste of the culture that this city provides for its basketball program. So that's kind of what you have to look at next, is like, you have to get that official visit scheduled. You have to get him on campus and probably multiple times. I know that, the effort is there making the in-home visits, and that's great. I'm not saying that they're not putting in the necessary effort to get this recruitment trending in their direction. But this is the type of player that Louisville really needs to prioritize. I mean, not only are you talking about a guy that can transform your offense, he's a great point guard. He fits what you're looking for. He's really good on and off ball. It just feels like this is a prototypical point guard in a Pat Kelsey system. Not only that, he is a star on the Adidas 3 SSB circuit. Not many players of this caliber play on the Adidas circuit, most of them in the Nike EYBL. So that's the main focus here now, is that will Adidas help out any? I mean, I know that shoe companies don't necessarily have the impact that they used to, but you would be naive to suggest that they don't play a factor any longer, because they definitely do. This is the recruitment that I'm interested in the most. He is probably my favorite prospect in the class. I mean, I think that this is a possible one-and-done type guy. He is a fantastic player on the offensive end. I think that he's serviceable on defense as well, and just a fantastic, phenomenal guy. There's been comparisons to Rob Dillingham. I think he's a better true point guard than Dillingham, but he does have that shiftiness and craftiness that Dillingham does possess as well. So we move on to another prospect that has been to Louisville recently, and it seems like the Cardinals could be trending in the right direction for this unnamed prospect that we will name coming up on the next segment of Locked on Louisville. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by Factor. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and even Keto. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from, every week you'll have new flavors to explore. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein, avoid meat, and simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use the code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's the code LockedOnCollege50, all one word, at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Today's title sponsor of the show is FanDuel. Now, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, right? America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have a little something different for you. Excuse me. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. If you go to FanDuel.com to look at the odds for this weekend, you need to go check out the 50% profit boost for the Bills Dolphins on Thursday night. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out the profit boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all of Sunday, 9:15. Pre-game moneyline bets. Profit boost will be live starting today. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. And Louisville fans, I want to take this time to thank you all for making Locked on Louisville your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the show is free on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. We continue identifying the 3 pivotal 2025 basketball recruits that I think that Louisville should prioritize the most. We just brought up Mikel Brown Jr. The one prospect that maybe Louisville is trending for the most as of late is Shelton Henderson. Shelton Henderson made his official visit to Louisville just a couple weeks ago on that August 23rd visit. And ever since then, it seems that things have been trending in Louisville's favor. Henderson has been rising up the rankings to the point now where he is a 5-star, according to 247sports.com, 15th best player in the country, 3rd best small forward, and #1 player in the state of Texas. Henderson, 6'6" small forward from Bel Air, Texas, played for Bel Air High School. For those that don't know where that is, it's sort of in the southwest corridor of Houston in the Harris County area, I believe. I think it's Harris County, if I'm not mistaken. A really good area for competition, and he is just an overall fantastic player with huge, and I'm talking huge upside potential. And we'll get to the skill set coming up here after we sort of paint the picture of what's going on in this recruitment. I remember when I brought up Shelton Henderson, I thought it was fantastic that Louisville was going to get a visit from him, right? But I felt like that this was a situation where Houston, who had been recruiting him all throughout high school, Texas, who's turning up the Lone Star State heat, LSU, who's got a relationship with him, and then Duke got into the picture, and it seemed like they sort of raced out in front, and all signs pointed to him being a Blue Devil. I mean, how many times do you see a five-star go to Duke? It's pretty obvious more often than not. So I always felt like Louisville was on the outside looking in. Always felt like, well, you really have to hit it out of the park in the official visit to even have a legitimate chance in this one. He makes the visit. Immediately after, I mean, we had a segment on sort of his response because I felt like his response was notable. It wasn't like your run-of-the-mill normal, yeah, it was great. I like the facilities. The coaching staff was great. They told me this. I like the players. No, he was basically straightforward. He's like, they set the bar high. Like, they set the standard really high. And I mean, you can't take everyone for their word when it comes to recapping recruiting visits because they're going to be feeling good about that visit because, I mean, why wouldn't they, right? I mean, you go to a campus and you'll get shown that you're a priority and it makes you feel good. But after that, it felt like Louisville started to trend. It looked like Louisville and Texas both started to ascend in this recruitment. I know that Shirley Donovan has said in his Discord that he likes where Louisville sit in this one. I won't go too much into that because, I mean, he does have it's a paid Discord, so I don't want to, take his words. But a couple things, apparently Duke might be recruiting over him, and that was a possibility that I brought up, is that as a Louisville fan, you hope that's going to be the case because Henderson's a top 15 prospect. That goes without saying that he is a really good player. But with the way Duke recruits, top 15 is not as glamorous to Duke as it is Louisville, right? Like top 10, top 5 is where Duke usually sits in recruiting. It's two different echelons that they both recruit in, but it seems like Duke might be putting him, behind a couple players that they're going after. There is one recruitment. I know the commitment's supposed to come today at some point. It might have already happened by the time this episode releases. So if it does, understand that this was recorded before that. Isaiah Harwell, top, I think, number 12, if I'm not mistaken, is starting to trend toward Houston. If he does choose Kelvin Sampson and the Cougars, that helps out Louisville even more. So it feels like the stars are aligning. Now, I'm not going to go as far as saying that Louisville's like the leader yet, because personally, I don't know. Some might say that they are, but at this point, you feel really good about where Louisville is sitting. And if Harwell does indeed choose Houston, you feel even better. And all eyes are going to be on Henderson here in the Derby City. So, but like I said, Henderson has a ton of long-term potential. Like 6'6" wing that has like point forward capabilities, can create for himself and off the dribble. Really, really strong. 6'6", 220. So he's got that blend of athleticism and strength. Versatile defender. I think, honestly, could guard. I don't want to go as far as, well, I'm going to say it. 1 through 5 in some situations. Like when you're playing against a small ball team, Henderson can slide into defending the 5. But really, really good defensively. Versatile defender that can switch onto multiple different positions. There's the long time potential as maybe a secondary creator and facilitator as a point forward. And also the 3-point potential is there as well. Like he's shown the ability to knock down the perimeter shot. There's no mechanical issues with the form. It's just a matter of getting the reps and putting in that work. And I think that the opportunity is there for him. So this is one that you really have to keep an eye out on, because Mikel Brown Jr., Louisville might be involved, but I'm not necessarily so sure that they're towards the top. Louisville seems to have risen to the top or close to the top of this recruitment for Shelton Henderson. And this could end up being the crown jewel in the class for the Cardinals. And he could end up being better than number 15 in the class because he's still a little bit further down, according to the composite. He's 23rd in the composite. But this is the type of player that I think Louisville really could build around in the front court, especially as sort of a point forward that fits into this system. So this is one that you definitely have to focus on. I'm not sure what the commitment timeline is looking like. He still has official visits scheduled to Duke at the end of this month, and also Texas. They're both listed for September 27th, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but definitely one to keep your eye out on. Speaking of official visits, one prospect is supposed to be making an official visit very, very soon to Louisville. We'll tell you who it is coming up on the final segment of Locked On Louisville. Today's episode of the show is also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn is it's not just another job board. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to try LinkedIn Jobs. It has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Helps you find those people you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new role but might be open to the perfect one. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. I actually found my new job that I started last week on LinkedIn, applied, had an interview, and the process has been smooth. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And already into the final segment of this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast, the third most pivotal 2025 basketball prospect that the Louisville Cardinals should prioritize this cycle is London Jemison. London recently cut his list, included Louisville in that list cut along the likes of Kansas, Vanderbilt, Virginia, Alabama, and others. It feels like Syracuse and Vanderbilt are trying to turn up the heat. He officially visited Kansas in August. Alabama was in September. And Louisville, granted, he's listed to visit tomorrow. I don't know that the confirmation is there. I know that these change very, very often and quickly. But according to 247sports.com, he is supposed to be officially visiting Louisville this weekend. That is something to keep an eye out on, whether it gets confirmed or not confirmed. Hopefully, he does indeed make the official visit. Now, Jameson is a prototypical wing in this system. He is a phenomenal three-point shooter, and he is a versatile shooter. So he does a really good job of the catch-and-shoot situations, spot up, dribbling into his own shot, stepping into the shot, you name it. Has a lot of versatility defensively. The creation upside is intriguing. I'm not sure that he'll ever – I don't want to limit him to being a 3-and-D wing, but I also don't want to say that he's going to be a point forward like, let's say, Shelton Henderson would be. I think that you're looking at a player that could end up one day being a top 2 scoring option on any given team. Jameson is ranked as the 38th best player in the country, according to 24/7 Sports, 10th best power forward, number 1 player in Connecticut, plays for St. Thomas More in Oakdale, Connecticut. 6'7", 185 pounds. Like I said, the main thing that he's going to be able to do right away is shoot the basketball and shoot it at a high level. Luckily for the Louisville Cardinals, that is extremely needed. That is right up Pat Kelsey's systems alley, and I think that he fits what you're looking for. You're going to be able to get those shots. The ball is moving frequently, and I think that that just fits Jameson's skill set. And he's also a player that puts a lot of emphasis on rebounding. You know, for his role of sort of playing out on the perimeter, being able to rebound at a high level is extremely valuable to a program. And I think that that is something that pretty much epitomizes what Pat Kelsey wants from players at that position. So this really is sort of a seamless fit. Unfortunately, Louisville's going up against Alabama in this recruitment. And that feels like the biggest challenge right now is going up against Nate Oates' team. Jameson did play on the Nike EYBL circuit, so, advantage Alabama in that situation. But I wouldn't rule out Kansas either. Like, Kansas has been recruiting at a really high level over the past 24 months. Bill Self seems to be taking some early tournament exits personally, so I wouldn't rule them out. Also, it seems like there's been some movement from Syracuse in this recruitment. I know that, they seemingly hadn't been involved, but Syracuse has been recruiting him apparently very, very hardly, or very hard. I apologize. They're putting a lot of a full court press on him at the moment. But also they had the geographical advantage. You talk about Louisville, Kansas, Alabama. That's not really close to Connecticut. Syracuse might not necessarily be like right down the street, but it is fairly close as in relation to the other schools. So that's something to focus on. But the main thing for Louisville is that you hope that he makes this official visit, because if he does, I feel like you're in a good spot. I think that Louisville is sitting right up at the top. I think that they're in the top tier of this recruitment, along with Alabama. I think Syracuse could get there. I think Kansas could get there. Vanderbilt, don't sleep on them. And same with Virginia, too. He would be the type of player that would fit Louisville's system and then go play for Tony Bennett and hurt Louisville for 4 straight seasons. That's usually how this goes. But no, he fits Louisville and Alabama's system really well, being the perimeter shooter he is. I just wonder where Louisville is truly in the pecking order. I wouldn't call them at the very top, but they are right there. I don't know that they're number one in the driver's seat, but I do think that they're in the top group. So main thing to focus on here is what is going to result from this official visit, assuming he does make that visit. By the way, question of the day: which recruit would you like to see join this Louisville class the most? Be sure to drop your YouTube comments down in the comment section below, and we will have a discussion. I'm going to start introducing polls to the YouTube page, so there's going to be some polls that you can that you can vote on, and we'll discuss the results on the shows. Obviously, this is a bye week for football, so I figured it was appropriate to dive into some men's basketball recruiting talk. I know that seemingly there's not too awful much going on at the moment, but with it being a bye week, we had to get sort of creative on content. Not to say that I dreaded talking about recruiting, but I knew that this was going to be a great time to talk recruiting, so I purposefully withheld recruiting talk until this week. We will have Grant Mulligan on the show tomorrow. He will be on to discuss some football recruiting. We'll have the buy-sell game, and we'll also talk about the main concerns that we both have for the football team heading into the last 10 games of the schedule. I do want to give you a small heads up in terms of scheduling, so you have it on your radar. The last week of September, I will be out of town from the 23rd to the 27th. Yes, that is the Notre Dame prep week. I will have as much preview on that as I can. I will be back on the night of the 27th, so we'll have business as usual following that, but it will change how I schedule content for the remainder of the month. There will be some more Georgia Tech prep. There will be more Georgia Tech recap, and then we'll try to preview that Notre Dame matchup as best as we can. So just want to give you a heads up there. That is going to wrap up this Thursday edition of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.